Michael, first of all, how's everybody come through from the weekend?
Yeah, a couple of little knocks that we've had to nurse since Saturday. We have a late check on Nick Powell and Tyrese Campbell, but we're optimistic that both will be okay.
How pleasing was it, having had the group obviously dispersed for a couple of weeks, to come back and turn in a performance away from home like that?
It's a very encouraging. Yeah, we were able to give the players a little bit of recovery time, which I think was necessary because it was such a short pre-season and coming off the back of one season into the other. There's very little opportunity to do that with the schedule, and particularly the schedule we face for the next few weeks. So, but we got a good week's work, which is probably a full training week leading into the Luton game, which we won't get again, I think, until the next international break, and we won't get it again until January. So that time's extremely valuable, and I think that was reflected in the performance.
What do you expect from Barnsley? Because you look at the table and see them down there towards the bottom, and obviously they've lost their manager in the last few weeks. But as we saw against Bristol City, they've got no shortage of fight and desire about them.
Yeah, I certainly don't like that. You had to admire how they managed to, they stayed up last season with big results in the last few games. So that shows the character that they have in their group. Obviously, we've signed Jacob Brown from there, so he's given us little bits of information about what type of group they are. They're a very hard-working team, young players that are very keen to impress. And so we expect a very, very difficult game. I don't think anyone gets an easy game against Barnsley. And whilst they maybe haven't had the start that they want, I think they've always been in the game. And, we have to make sure that we're at our best to make sure that we try and take 3 points.
And I know we're only a month or so into the season, just over that. But how keen are you, and how welcome would it be to get the monkey off your back and get that first win at home in the league this season?
Well, yeah, look, you want to win at home. We've only had the 2 games, one performance or one half. We were disappointing, I felt, against Bristol City. Otherwise, I think we've been reasonably happy with how we've played. I'm not sure how relative home form is in the current climate. If you look at, we've obviously picked up 7 points away from home. But yeah, we want to make sure that we win our home games. It was a big part of us pulling away from the situation we found the club in when we came. So again, tomorrow night gives us the opportunity, as you rightly say, to get that first home win and build on it.
Look, thank you.
Thank you.
George, do you want to have a go now, please?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Michael. Obviously, it's a very hectic period, as you've already alluded to. How important it is to utilise the squad and the depth that you've got, and are you looking at maybe 1 or 2 changes for the game against Barnsley?
I think, look, it's probably not a game where you have to consider freshness and fatigue as a factor, because obviously we've come off the back of the international break. I think that will be more of a factor in the games preceding this, when we obviously, we'll have to play again Saturday, we'll have to play again Tuesday. So for this minute in time, I don't think fatigue's a factor in team selection. We've 1 or 2 little, knocks that we have to, hopefully players will recover from. And, you want to get consistency in your team and consistency in your season. And you need to do that. Obviously, you have to be consistent with your team selection. So, yeah, we won't make change just for the sake of it.
Because continuity is a big factor, and we are starting to see developments of partnerships, aren't they? Particularly at the back with the 2 youngsters, Harry, of course, and Nathan, in the heart of the defence.
Yeah, I think obviously, good. I think there's good. The 2 young lads have done well since they come in. They played initially in the cup games with Bruno. They played Saturday with Danny. They've played with Chesney. So they've always had an experienced head in that back 3, which has helped them. And look, the most important thing for a young player when he comes into the team is that he's not overawed, that he feels he's more than capable of first of all, playing at this level, and secondly, holding down a position at this level and holding his place in the team. And we've been delighted with the impact that the likes of Nathan and Harry, and obviously Tyrese, who had the impact last season, and Josh Timon have had this season. They've been excellent. Tashan comes into that equation too. So they've certainly brought freshness to the team, and it's a nice blend when you put the experienced players around them.
And the versatility you've got within the squad, particularly at the back, and people that can utilise, and their ability to move into certain positions, helps one of you, in many ways, Michael, to, I suppose, change the system, whether you want to go 3 at the back, 4 at the back, and that's a plus, isn't it?
Yeah, I think last season too often we maybe had to play people slightly out of possession, put square peg in round hole, and not necessarily the team didn't maybe function as well as we would have liked. But this season we do have, I think, the right personnel to play in either system that we play, whether you rightly says whether it's a 3 or 4 at the back. So yeah, look, that's a nice option to have, but we don't want to, we want to get continuity, as we said, in our form and into the team. So our focus is on ourselves, and if we feel it's the right thing to make changes tactically, we'll do so. But we want players to find form and obviously establish themselves in the team is the priority.
Stephen Fletcher up and running, that's a big factor, but he does bring something other to the game than goals, who are important to a striker, but he's got other attributes to his game, hasn't he, Michael?
Oh yeah, look, we knew what we were getting in Fletch. You're getting a player that has a bit of everything, really. His link-up play is excellent. He's a physical presence. He can deal with he's battled hard in playing both in the Championship and the Premier League against defenders, so he can deal with physical contact, and obviously he's an eye for a goal. If you look back at, he knows himself, he should have scored against Preston. He hit the bar against Birmingham, so I think in every game he's threatened to score, to be honest. So it was good for him to get off the mark, and equally, he'll be keen to add to that tomorrow night.
Finally, from me, Michael, back-to-back home games, an opportunity for, I know you won't look at the league table too often this early in the season, but an opportunity really to rack the points up with these back-to-back home games, isn't it?
Well, yeah, look, we want to get, the key, I think, in the Championship is get as many points on the board as early as you can, and when you do come into a little dip of form, or you lose a game or two, that you don't allow that to fester, and you don't, so that you're not on losing streaks or non-winning streaks that last too long. So that's important. I think we've got, we've only lost 1 game this season, and we want to maintain that type of form. But the 2 home games, rightly as you say, give us a chance to put points on the board. But as I say, we expect tough games on both occasions.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael, you've already mentioned about momentum and going forward, but we're going into a bit of a mad schedule now. I think it's 18 games before at the end of the season. So given that you wanted a smaller squad and you didn't quite get rid of as many players as you wanted, do you think that might end up being a bonus, because you've certainly got a large enough squad to cover injuries and eventualities?
Yeah, look, it may turn out to be the case, but a larger squad is ultimately more difficult to work with. Than a larger squad, you've invariably more disappointed players who aren't in the team. So I'm not sure. I think obviously with the COVID situation, and obviously a player, should a player have a positive test, for example, I think they'd automatically almost miss 3 games. And given that we're going into a period of 3 games, happens in such a short space of time, we probably will need the bodies. We haven't, but equally, it's a balancing act. We probably would have liked 1 or 2 more players to possibly leave the club. I think that would have been in everyone's interest, but ultimately that hasn't been the case. So we focus on what lies ahead. The schedule is heavy. The number of games is heavy, and if we have to utilise every member of the squad, we'll do so. And obviously the window will open again quite quickly in January.
For those players who don't appear to be part of your squad at all, how hard will it be to manage them?
It's not particularly difficult for me to manage them. We have players who have returned from the club, but they've not been at the club for 2 years, so we can't move forward as a club and go back 2 years and start to try and reintegrate players that have been away from the club, whether that's on a loan, and whether that loan has been a success or not. Players come and replace players. I've been in that situation myself as a player, having gone out on loan and come back, and the club looks different from what it was when you left. So that's just the nature of the game. My focus is to build a squad which can compete in this league and challenge in this league. And there will be casualties. That's just the nature of it. We have players, for example, who have been signed when we were in the Premier League. We're in our third season in the Championship. So we have to be mindful of, not hindering the group that we have. We've got younger players around the team now. So it's important that we focus on the players that are ultimately having an effect on the starting 11.
Obviously, you're planning for a brighter future for Stoke. I'm not sure if you're aware that this is the highest position Stoke have been in the Championship since relegation. So all the fans will be looking now for more and more positives. And whilst you're keeping your feet on the ground, it's really important now with 2 home games, having had such a good start away from home, to build on that and get your first home win, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We're relatively pleased with how we've started. You're always looking for strong performances in every game. It's difficult in this league to get that. There's a lot of inconsistency. I think, the nature of the game and the schedule adds to that. But, as I said previously, our home form, I think from November last year, was very good. And we want to make sure that we replicate that this season. We're pleased, obviously, how we've been away from home. But tomorrow night and the 2 games this week, obviously, gives a good chance to try and put points on the board. We obviously want to win back-to-back wins, but that will not be straightforward. We play a very committed Barnsley team, followed by obviously a Brentford team that has, I think, been reshaped a little bit with some of the players that have left, but a team that has had an extremely good season last season. So none of the games are easy. We have to just maintain our consistency and look to improve our performance level all the time.
And lastly from me, you've talked about the players who got knocks and bumps in what was a fairly physical game at Luton. How are Chester and Morgan Fox? Are they recovering from their injuries?
Yeah, James is trained today. Morgan's still a little bit off, he's still a little bit away from it, so we probably won't be in a position to risk him tomorrow night. But the others, Therese and Nick Powell, obviously came off with bumps, and Stephen Fletcher came off with a little bit of soreness in his foot. But hopefully all 3, as I say, will be fine for tomorrow night.
Well, as ever, good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ange. Dave Lee and then Jim Conlon, please, and then we'll just move on to the written guys.
Michael, you mentioned the extended preparation time that you had for the Luton game. I was going to ask you about the preparation that you make for games. What's the biggest change that you've had to make to training and preparation for games since the lockdown restrictions?
I suppose we have to be a little bit more precise with the information we give to the players, in the sense of, obviously, it's difficult to meet in large groups indoors, for example. We have to protect, obviously, the squad from transmission. We're obviously in a secure bubble that we've created ourselves, but the players obviously go outside the bubble when they leave the training ground. So there's no big difference really in terms of what goes on in terms of the preparation on the pitch. There's a little bit of an adjustment to how we give the players information off the pitch. I think obviously technology plays a part in that. We're able to give them, edited analysis individually to their phones, for example. There's probably more smaller group meetings than larger group team meetings than maybe we did in the past. So we're splitting, post-game analysis down to smaller groups. We obviously have to do pre-game analysis as a larger group. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. The schedule more than anything else is the challenge, rather than you know, the restrictions of obviously COVID.
Thank you. Good luck for tomorrow night.
Thank you.